Hi guys, Dr. Mushroom here. Today's topic is fatigue. So this is something a lot of people suffer with, and it's something that Western medicine has very little to offer. There are some prescription medications available by Western medicine that help mask the symptoms, but Western medicine often doesn't do a good job at getting to the root cause. I have a lot of patients who present to the practice with these non-specific symptoms, fatigue, often accompanied with brain fog, gastrointestinal issues, muscle aches, and this is something that the natural approach can really help a lot of people. So there are many different causes of fatigue, and often people have multiple causes. So when people present to me, I will often do an exam and recommend some basic lab studies. But I'll go ahead and implement a kind of a shotgun approach at that first visit. And then when people come back in a month to discuss their lab results, often they're feeling better already. And then we'll begin to narrow the approach, taper down some of the supplements, and work on focusing on the issues that were uncovered in the laboratory testing. But some of the causes can be broadly classified into gut issues, body inflammation, and occult infections. So starting out, probably the most important thing is healthy eating. So as Hippocrates has said, let your food be your medicine. You want to focus on good, healthy foods. And what does that mean? Well, for people with fatigue or any autoimmune disorder, they're often going to do better to completely avoid sugar and wheat. And these easily absorbable carbohydrates certainly can contribute to elevated insulin levels, insulin resistance, and it's just something we want to avoid. So we really want a healthy eating plan to be easy to understand, and that goes a long ways. Just cutting out those two foods are going to go a long ways to lowering overall body inflammation and begin the gut healing process. I often recommend eating only during mealtime. Don't eat between meals or after dinner. And the foods you want to concentrate on are good, healthy, plant-based foods. You know, I'm not saying you can't have wheat, but we probably eat too much wheat. But things we should eat, lots and lots of vegetables, mushrooms. There was a big study in Japan showing the more mushrooms you eat, the less likely you are to develop dementia. So they're good for you. Other foods include eggs, also nuts, avocados, fish. These are foods you want to concentrate on and have that to be the major part of your diet. Fasting is something that the ancient cultures did a lot of as part of their spiritual practices, but there are many health benefits to fasting. And I'm going to do separate videos on each of these approaches and talk about the science and the reasoning behind it. And today's video is going to just briefly summarize the approach. But fasting can be very flexible, and for a lot of my patients, I tell them once a week, have just one meal on, say every Friday, just eat one meal. And that's going to go a long ways to getting you some of the benefit of the fasting without much of the pain. Fermented foods go a long way to healing the gut. So 1/3 of our immune system's in the gut. We got to get it healthy. Reestablishing normal gut microflora can be beneficial. And implementing fermented foods such as sauerkraut, kimchi, kombucha, fermented pickles, kefir, fermented soy, these things can all be beneficial for helping to heal the gut and reestablish normal gut microflora. For people that have reflux or heartburn, an apple cider vinegar tablespoon after each meal will often cure the reflux after a month or so. Bone broth is very healing for the gut. 1/4 cup a day, organic grass-fed beef bone broth gives your body the building blocks for bone, joint, ligament, tendon health, but also can help heal the gut. Vitamin D deficiency is rampant in our population. Probably 90% of the people I test in the office who present with fatigue have vitamin D outright deficiency, or they are suboptimal on their vitamin D. Vitamin D you can get from sunlight, but we don't get enough of it, or diet. But if you have gut issues, you're not absorbing some of these fat-soluble vitamins like vitamin D. And so I often will start people on the supplement right away, and it takes months to bring that D level up. Another fat-soluble vitamin that people are often deficient in is vitamin K2. So this is produced in fermented foods. There's certain animal sources that can be a source of K2. But if you've got gut issues, you're going to probably be deficient on K2. And just starting that as a supplement can go a long ways toward ramping up the healing that can occur. Magnesium is another mineral that many people are deficient in. The magnesium content in our foods has decreased over time. The magnesium, K2, and vitamin D work in synergy, and hitting people up front with those supplements can really speed up the healing. A multivitamin can be beneficial, but you want to be selective in the multivitamin you use. I'm not a fan of the synthetic version of folate called folic acid. A lot of our grains are supplemented with or enriched with folic acid, and that's not the source of folate that you want. You want actual folate. So look at the labels on your multivitamin. I'm also not a fan of calcium carbonate as a calcium supplement. Most people who have fatigue and these inflammatory issues are going to do better to not have calcium carbonate because it can contribute to atherosclerosis. A commonly overlooked source of inflammation is the bacteria that live at the gum line. These bacteria are associated with increased risk of cardiovascular disease and neurodegenerative disease. We all know to brush and floss and go see the dentist, but an easy way to address the bacteria that live at the gum line and reduce that bacterial burden is by taking some virgin coconut oil and swishing that around the mouth for 10 to 15 minutes once a day. It's called oil pulling, and over time that will soften the plaque, allow you to remove the plaque, and it will greatly reduce that bacterial burden. It'll reverse gum disease or stop the progression of gum disease and help address that particular issue. Often when people present with fatigue, I'm going to recommend some type of medicinal mushroom. Often it's reishi mushroom. So a lot of these people that have fatigue also have fibromyalgia, irritable bowel syndrome characterized as bloating, cramping, and the reishi mushroom alters the gut microflora in a beneficial way to lower the amount of bad bacteria, increase the good bacteria, and lower overall levels of gut inflammation. Sometimes when people have more brain fog, and I suspect could be an occult infection with viruses or these intracellular bacteria, then I would recommend a mix of medicinal mushrooms, oftentimes using 6 or more species that often work in synergy to help repair the immune system and allow your body to begin to decrease that infectious burden from both viruses and intracellular bacteria. So that's my overall approach to an initial visit for fatigue, and then we often would fine-tune that and customize it to the patient depending on what the laboratory results show, and begin to taper back some of the supplements just because it can be a little overwhelming initially to try to continue that many supplements, and we want to make sure there's a good cost-benefit ratio to the supplements. That's the approach to fatigue, and I'll talk in future videos about each of these modalities, each of these treatments in more detail, and talk about the history and science behind it and why they work like they do. Thanks guys, be sure to like and subscribe. Thank you, bye.
3, 2, okay, I need you to click the red button in 3, 2, 1.